Session number 25, we will deal with the longest, pinaka mabigat na libro ng mga propeta, with the book of the prophet Isaiah. Kaya as we say, slow by slow tayo dito, piece by piece, no? Dahan-dahan. At so first part lang ngayon, gabi, depende sa siguro dalawang parte. Yung first Isaiah na tinatawag. I will explain kung ano yung first Isaiah later. Pero ito yung ating topic ngayong gabi. First Isaiah, part 1. May part 2 next week. A little review. Maalala nyo, nasa 8th century BC prophets tayo. Tapos na natin si Amos of Tekoa, who we say as the oldest among the literary prophets. Yung mga prophet na may name, may book under their name, Amos or Amos. Then, nung last week, si Hosea, the son of Beeri. Ngayong gabi, si Isaiah of Jerusalem. And then, after Isaiah of Jerusalem, 2 parts ito, Micah of Moreshet. And then, we finish yung 8th century prophet. We move to the next group of prophets. May grupo na singers, choir dito sa Secretary Parish, ang pangalan nila ay Fifth Gospel. Pero pag sinabing Fifth Gospel sa biblical study, it refers to Isaiah. There are 4 Gospels, pero may pang-5 ebanghelyo. Yan si Isaías, dahil nga among the prophetic books, o kahit siguro Old Testament, pinakamaraming citation ay ang libro ni Propeta Isaías, lalo na sa Ebanghelyo. So, you cannot miss this prophetic book pag pinag-aaralan yung Ebanghelyo, the Gospels, kasi malimit na si Jesus mismo, he cited the book of the oracles of prophet Isaiah. Kaya nga tinawag siyang the Fifth Gospel. Ito ay hindi si Isaiah, kundi si Jesus. If you notice him, he is wearing a Jewish prayer shawl. Meron pa siyang kippa. It's a modern painting we should find in Burgos, in Spain. And si Jesus may hawak-hawak na Torah scroll ng you remember he read from the scroll in the Gospel of Luke, San Lucas. So that's there's painting, no, na relevant to the book of the prophet Isaiah. Okay. Then sa pag-aaral ng libro ni Propeta Isaiah, dinidivide ito into 3 periods. No? Kaya mayroong 3 mukha ni Propeta Isaiah. Ibig sabihin, 3 periods. Dahil, at yung periods na ito, hindi yung magkakalapit. Talagang centuries apart. So, in the 19th century, therefore, modern time, yung century natin ito, yung scholarship, in-identify nila na yung Isaiah, hindi lang gawa at can be attributed to the prophet Isaiah. Kasi nung pinag-aralan nilang ng maigi, o kahit hindi mo pag-aralan ng maigi, basahin mo lang, magkakaiba yung period. Pagdating mo kasi sa bandang chapter 40, there are 66 chapters ni Isaiah. Okay? Pagdating mo ng bandang chapter 40, iba na yung context doon, no? Babylonian Empire na, no? Exile na. Dito, Assyrian Empire dito sa panahon ni Amos, ni Isaiah of Jerusalem. Meaning to say, 8th century. Ang Babylonian exile ay 6th century. So, 200 years away. Ang context, ang historical context niya. So, mostly yung chapter 1 hanggang 39, yun yung tinatawag na First Isaiah. Mostly, kasi hindi naman lahat ito. Pero roughly, sabihin na lang natin. And so this is the so-called first Isaiah, okay, which we can call na Isaiah of Jerusalem. Kasi yun ang syudad kung saan siya nagministeryo bilang propeta. And you find most of his oracles sa chapters 1 to 39. Pagdating mo sa chapter 40 up to chapter 55, iba na yung context, sabi ko kanina, Babylonian captivity, o just before the Babylonian captivity, ang empire na dito ay the Babylonians, at ang period na is the 6th century. So, yung kabila ay 8th century. And pagdating mo naman sa 56, chapters 56 to 66 to the very end of the prophet Isaiah, ang mapapansin mo na ito, iba na uli yung so-called context. Panahon na ito ng Persian Empire under the leadership of the Emperor of Persia. This time is Cyrus the First, no? Cyrus the Great. Kaya iba na, and the Persian Empire began, no, late 5th century, you know, on to even until the 4th century. So, late 6th century onward to the 4th century. So, iba uli yung historical context. So, ngayon, until now, pag pinag-aralan ang Isaiah, we divide now into these three categories. Isaiah of Jerusalem, o first Isaiah, second Isaiah, third Isaiah. Kaya yung topic natin ngayong gabi at next week, dito lang ako magpo-focus. Kasi iba, pagdating natin sa Babylonian captivity, the end of the Southern Empire, doon natin itutuloy yung second and then on to the third Isaiah. So, huwag nyo namang minsan, nung wala pa ako sa Sacred Heart, but somewhere else, dahil talagang serious naman ang pag-aaral ng propeta na ito. Sabi ng isang lector, I think seminarian na lector, medyo passionate nga siya sa na-discover niya, 3 pala yung Isaiah sa libro ni Propeta Isaiah. Kaya nung magbasa siya ng first reading, sabi niya, a reading from the book of the second Isaiah. So, wag naman doon, lalong malilito yung mga ating mga sisimba. Hindi na, just say Isaiah. Pero in biblical studies, we divide them into yung 3 grupo na ito. Okay? Now, this is the great Isaiah scroll. Nung na-discover in the 1940s, yung mga scrolls na malapit sa Dead Sea, ang lugar ay Qumran, Qumran, okay? Ang pinakamahaba o pinaka-complete na libro ng Biblia representing the Old Testament ay yung kay Isaiah. Complete na 66 chapters. The rest are fragments lamang. So, ang pinaka-kumpleto ay na-preserve ay ang Isaiah scroll. Kaya naka-display ngayon, of course, sa Jerusalem, and before, pilgrims and tourists can go to the museum, and separate museum nga ito. They will see yung the great Isaiah scroll on display. And mahaba ito. It is dated as 127, the oldest that we can have as a scroll. 125 BC. Napakaluma, no? Predating the time of Christ. No? And mahaba din, no? 7.34 meters. Haba. Imagine mo lang yun ang babasahin ni Jesus. Diba? Hinawakan niya daw yung scroll, pagkatapos binasa niya from the book of the prophet Isaiah. and then 54 columns. Sa ating Biblia ngayon, there are 66 chapters. Pero 54 columns kasi ang bilangan pagdating ng scroll. Wala naman silang mga chapters pa noon and verses. Okay. Now, let's go to the personal profile of Isaiah. Ang pangalan niya ay Isa, meaning Isha means to save, and Iya means Yahweh. So, Yahweh saves. Kapangalan ni Jesus, kung titignan ninyo. Kasi si Jesus din, Yeshua. No? Yahweh, Shua, saves. Yahweh is salvation. So, Joshua, Isaiah, pareho ang ibig sabihin ng kanilang mga pangalan. Kilala natin, na-identify ang tatay niya. Ang pangalan niya ay Amos. Hindi yan si Amos. Kaya nga, nilagay ko dito, kasi baka akala nyo, tatay ni Uzziah, tatay ni Isaiah, si Amos. Letter Z yun, ibang spelling at iba rin ang ano. So, hindi sila magkamag-anak. Then, connected with the temple. Kasi, pagbabasa, later on, mapapansin natin na karamihan yung mga oracles niya nakasentro in the temple o he is in the esplanade ng templo. So, hindi katulad ni na Hosea, di ba? Or Amos na sanctuary sila, wala sila sa templo, nasa north, no? So, si Isaiah nasa south, at sa heart ng south, sa pinaka-capital ng southern kingdom, which is of course Jerusalem, where the temple is or was, no? So connected siya with the temple and temple establishment in Jerusalem. So isa sa mga propeta na may, sabihin na lang natin, may influence, no? Influential, no? Kasi nga nasa tabi siya ng mga may kapangyarihan, no? Sa templo at sa court. So he is a court prophet. He advises the kings, no? Kinukonsulta siya ng mga hari, and he also criticizes the kings, no? Mamaya makikita natin ang pagtuligsa niya sa mga namumuno starting from the king, and maybe connected with a royal prophetic corps. Siguro sa korte ng hari merong grupo ng mga propeta na tagapayo ng hari o taga-bigay ng guidance. So, that could have been a prophetic group, and he is one of them serving under the king. But it doesn't mean subservient siya sa hari. Kung alam niya na mali ang ginagawa ng hari, hindi katulad ng mga nag-work sa gobyerno, na hindi sila makagalaw para sabihin ang gusto nila. Kailangan lumabas muna, magalang mag-resign sila, kailangan bago sila makapag-critique, makapagsabi ng totoo. But the prophet was not like that. May asawa siya. Unfortunately, hindi in-identify ang pangalan niya. Si Hosea, kilala natin ng pangasawa niya, si Gomer. But it said there na he was married to a prophetess he had two sons. Katulad ni Hosea, symbolic names din yung pinangalan sa mga anak niya. Yung unang anak niya, ang pangalan niya ay Shear-Yashuv. A remnant shall return. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng, ang haba ng pangalan na yan. Shear-Yashuv. A remnant shall return. Is a name bearing the symbol of hope, na kahit na ganun ang katinding krimen at violation against the covenant na ginawa ng taga-Jerusalem o taga-Huda o from Judah, and they will be punished because of that. A remnant will remain and shall return, maybe from the exile, from being punished, no? Or return to God, pagsisisi. So, hindi lahat ay masasama. A remnant siya. So, yun ang pangalan ng ipinangalan niya sa anak niya. She'ar Yashuv. No? Yun namang isang anak, the negative symbolism. Ang pangalan ng anak niya, mas mahaba na ngayon. Maher, Shalal, Hasbaz. Hindi ito sentence eh. So literally, hari, bilisan mo, spoil, ang samsam, rush, bilisan muli, buti, ang pandarambong, something like that. No? So, talking about, of course, the war as punishment for these Jerusalemites who have forgotten the covenant of the Lord, who had been unfaithful sa Panginoon. Darating na ngayon, magiging spoil sila, magiging buti na lang sila, magiging prey. No? So, yan yung symbolic names ng mga anak ni Isaías. Sabi natin noon na most of the prophets may story ng kanilang call. Kung hindi man story, may indication na tinawag sila. At matatagpuan mo yung pagtawag kay Isaías sa chapter 6, 1 to 13. Very dramatic ang pagtawag ang story ng pagtawag sa kanya. Kung matatawag natin na story, kasi hindi naman siya narrative, it's more of a kind of first-hand report. No? It happened in the year of the death of King Uzziah. King Uzziah was the king in the south. So, forget muna natin yung north. Kasi yung north, yan sina Hosea, sina Amos, no? Yun yung teritoryo nila. Ngayon, nasa south na tayo. So, ang hari ay si King Uzziah at namatay siya in 742 BC. Kaya yun din ang umpisa, sabi ng mga nagde-date sa start ng mission ng prophet around this period sa kamatayan ni King Uzziah around 742 BC, and he had a call, he had a vision, at ang vision in Hebrew is ra'a, meaning he saw pero ibang klaseng ang nakita niya. So, it is a vision, pangitain, in the temple. Remember, he works in the temple. And ano yung vision na o pangitain na banaagan ni Propeta Isaías? Nakita niya si Yahweh. Wow, what a privileged opportunity, what a providence na makita mo ang si Yahweh, no? Ang God. Pag makita mo ang Panginoon, mamamatay ka na. Yan nga, kaya later on sasabihin niya, wow, mamamatay na ako kasi nakita ko lang Panginoon. Oh, don't ever attempt to want to see the Lord, because the next thing that will happen to you is you die. In the Bible, of course, no? In the Old Testament. And he is enthroned as king. No? Nasa trono si Yahweh na parang hari, and surrounded by seraphim. Huwag niyong isipin ng mga anghel ito. No? They have words for angels. Pagdating na kasi later on ng Christianity, itong mga seraphim na ito, cherubim, ginawa ng mga anghel. But no. In the Old Testament, they are not angels. No? They were heavenly beings because they are, but it doesn't mean they are angels. Later on, we baptize them to be, we call them to be angels, pero that's already an interpretation of a later, coming from a later period of time, sa Christian period. So, surrounded by a seraphim. Literally, seraphim means the fiery ones. Umaapoy na mga beings. Yan yung seraph means fire. One who is oozing with fire. At may earthquake, the doorposts shaking. Temple filled with smoke. Yan ang prelude ng theophany sa Biblia. Pag nagpapakita ang Diyos, may mga natural, sasamahan siya ng mga natural na mga pangyayari. Katulad ng earthquake, katulad ng thunder, lightning. Ito naman, temple was filled with smoke. And the seraphim were shouting to one another. Nagsisigawan sila. At anong sinisigaw nila? Holy, holy, holy is Yahweh Sabaoth. Sabi nun. Sabaoth in Hebrew is armies. Hukbong sandatahan ni Yahweh. Bakit meron bang army si Yahweh? Meron. Ito nga. No? Yung word na host sa English, actually, pinaganda na lang yung host na yan, meaning host of armies. No? Ang hukbo, Panginoon ng mga hukbo, sabi nga natin sa Tagalog, Santo, 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 Panginoong Diyos na makapangyarihan. Medyo inayos-ayos ng konti ng liturgy kasi ang pangit naman pakinggan, Panginoon ng mga hukbo. And that is preserved in another Tagalog version of Holy, Holy, Holy. No? So they are shouting, acclaiming, yung mga seraphim shouting to one another, hindi sila umaawit. Kasi may nagsabi sa akin, Father, awitin natin yung Holy, Holy sa misa. Kasi yung mga anghel nga doon sa umawit, hindi nga sila mga anghel sa Isaiah chapter 6. Hindi rin sila mga umaawit. Nagsisigawan sila. Karael, sabi sa Hebrew, shouting to one another. Siguro parang dahil nga magkakalayo siguro sila dahil Yahweh enthroned, they cannot go near the Lord kasi it's the holy, no? Holy of holies, you cannot go near. You will be like the Ark of Covenant. You remember yung kinento natin, yung humawak ng Ark of Covenant, namatay pa sila dahil nga nilapitan nila yung holy. So you don't go near a holy thing, you will die. So malalayo siguro sila, and they're shouting, Holy, 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 Lord of armies, Yahweh Sabaoth. His glory fills the earth. Now, glory in Hebrew is kabod. And kabod literally means fat, or weight, or bigat. No? Ginawa nating glory, parang magandang pakinggan Latin, gloria. Pero literally means yung bigat, mabigat, fat, no? Kaved, heavy. Yan yung mga translation yan sa Hebrew. Heavy. Yung heaviness ng Panginoon ay fills the whole world. No? Yung inoccupy na ng kanyang pagkabigat. The whole world. They were acclaiming that. No? The power of the Lord of armies, hukbong sandatahan ng Panginoon. Now, this is discovered in archaeology in Syria in the 10th century, six-winged deity. No? 6 kasi yung wings noong seraphim, sabi doon, yung 3 covering their private parts. Kasi nga, before the Lord, you should not be naked because it's a shame. No? So, but then when was this discovered? I have to check again. Pero it's a 10th century BC figurine of a deity with 6 wings. So maybe Isaiah had that kind of idea of such common image na common art figurines na nakikita nila malapit sa Israel, which is Syria. Okay. Now, anong reaction ni Isaiah? feeling of unworthiness. Sabi niya, woe is me, I am lost. Meaning, I'm going to die. Because he has sinned the Lord. No? And I am a man of unclean lips, meaning I'm a sinner. I am unclean. Kasi remember yung very important sa book of Leviticus, yung cleanliness and uncleanliness. And before the Lord, no, you should be clean. Clean meaning ritually clean. I live among a people of unclean lips, meaning those in Jerusalem. And my eyes have seen the King, Yahweh of armies, Yahweh of Sabaoth. No? I have seen. So, nakita ko, kaya I'm going to die. Pero, this is before we proceed, Marc Chagall is the artist, a Jew, French Jew. Popular siya sa mga ganitong kuwan kasi very hindi ako marunong sa art, pero I know when an art is really worth interpreting and worth beholding, katulad nito. Marc Chagall is a Jewish who had also, I think, experienced yung Holocaust. So, yun. Kaso yung seraphim na portrait niya ay anghel na and touching the lips of Isaiah. Doon sa text, hindi niya hinawakan, kundi may thong, parang tong ng ember, tapos yun ang parang susunugin niya yung lips ni Prophet Uzziah to make him clean. So, a kind of ritual purification. So, pagkatapos niyan, bibigyan na siya ng mission si Isaias. So, Yahweh, this time now, ask for a volunteer. Any volunteer dyan na ipapadala ko? Then, anong sagot ni Isaiah? Volunteer siya. Hineni, shalacheni, sabi niya, here I am, send me. Which is now become a kind of a slogan pag kaming mga pari o mga madre o brothers, religious people are professing their vows. No? Tatawagin yung pangalan mo, no? Sister Maria, Christina, so-and-so, and then yung sister tatayo, sabi niya, here I am, send me, quoting the prophet, the reaction of the prophet Isaiah when the Lord Yahweh asked for a volunteer. No? Hineni means present. No? Narito ako, present. Shalacheni, send me. Then Yahweh commands him, go and say to these people, hear and hear, but do not understand. See and see, but do not perceive. What kind of mission is that? Sabihin mo sa mga tao para hindi nila maunawaan ang iyong sasabihin. Hindi mapagbiro naman si Lord, no? But let's see, what's the point of the Lord? Make the heart of the people fat, their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. Meaning, wag mo silang bigyan ng enlightenment na makita nila ang mali at they will avoid what is evil, and now they will return to me and they will be healed. Huwag mo silang gawin na gano'n. Ilito mo sila para hindi sila matauhan. Something like that. Could you imagine what kind of mission is that? Meaning, this is a mission impossible and mission that will end the relationship between Yahweh and Jerusalem. Then Isaiah replies, how long, O Lord? Para tayo ngayon si Isaiah, how long, O Lord? Kailan ba kami magkaroon ng vaccine? How long, O Lord? Matapos ng pandemic. And he, Yahweh, said, until cities lie waste without inhabitant. Hanggang maubos lahat sila. And houses without people. and the land is utterly desolate. Talagang galit na ang Panginoon. And Yahweh removes people far away, and the forsaken places are many in the midst of the land, until the land is devastated. Mahirap ang mission ng propeta. But, sabi niya, here I am, send me. Kaya, pupunta siya. Now, prophetic mission, therefore, of Isaiah is in the south, and it covers a long period of time. Napakahaba. 66 years. Kasi nga, doon sa opening niya, in the days of Uzziah, sabi niya, those are the kings of the south, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Pag sumatotal mo natin ito, 66 years. Pwede ba ang ministeryo ng isang pari ay aabotin ng 66 years? Yes. No? In 2009, my uncle celebrated as a priest here in Sacred Heart Parish Shrine where he was ordained 50 years ago. So he had this golden jubilee here 50 years ago, in 2009. No, so 61, so 60 years, sabihin na lang natin, na pari. No? Ewan ko kung maaabutin ako diyang 60 years. No? Baka golden nga, hindi ko naaabutin yan. So, and then after apat kompleto pa sila na nagmisa dito. I remember very well. I was still in Tagaytay as a professor there, and organized yung little salo-salo pagkatapos. And kompleto pa sila na magka-classmate on that year, 2009. No? Apat silang na-ordain 50 years back. No? And after 1 or 2 years, ubos na sila lahat. Uncle ko na lang yung last man standing. So it's possible that you can reach your 66 years as me. And of course, yung mga mag-asawa, they could reach as far as that. But this is a long ministry, therefore. It's not a joke not to retire. Actually, nag-retire na si Isaiah, and then out of retirement, sumabak muli siya. We will see that next week. Now, 3 international events in which Isaiah witnessed and also was involved. We will discuss this next meeting. The first one is the Syro-Ephraimitic War that happened in 734 to 732 BC. And, of course, the fall of the northern kingdom, or Jesus' capital is Samaria, in 722 BC. And the siege of Jerusalem during the time of Hezekiah, King Hezekiah, in 701 BC. Ito na nakita natin sa second book of Kings. Itong siege of Jerusalem, diniscuss natin to. Nandoon, kasi meron din account doon ng Deuteronomic historian, parallel, halos kaparehas ng account ni Isaiah dito sa book of the prophet Isaiah, itong siege of Jerusalem, which we will tackle next meeting, yung second part ng Isaiah of Jerusalem, or first Isaiah. Point number is, first years of his prophetic life was, bata-bata pa siya, spent for the fight, the struggle for social justice. No? Modern concept yung social justice na word, no? But this is a favorite word in the moral and ethical teachings of the church. Social justice. What is social justice? No? Hindi yung justice itself na pare-parehas kayo ng mayaman o mahirap, pare-parehas kayo ng karapatan. No. Social justice is what we call preferential favoring those who are oppressed, the poor. So, basic human rights, kahit sino pa yon, mahirap man, mahirap, lalo pa yung mahirap, must be respected. So, yun yung what we mean here by social justice. They have a word for that in Hebrew, MISHPAT. And favorite line ito or hugot ito, favorite vocabulary ito ng mga 8th century prophets, yung word na ito, MISHPAT. Translated as justice only. Hindi na sinasabing social justice. Pero the content of that is really about fighting for the basic human rights of those who are oppressed and those who are poor. And sometimes, kinukumbine sa salitang TSEDAKAH. Ang TSEDAKAH is translated in English Bibles as righteousness. Kaya nagkukumbine malimit ito, MISHPAT lang o TSEDAKAH lang, or they go together, justice and righteousness. So para silang twins, no, na laging nagkakasama, no. Pero they mean one and the same, no. It's about justice for the oppressed and for the poor. So justice in relation to the poor and the oppressed, especially preserving their dignity and basic human rights. And nabanggit na natin ito nung diniscuss natin si Amos, yung concept ng social justice in the ancient world. No? At sinabi natin doon na ang primary na may responsibilidad to restore social justice or MISHPAT are the gods. Yung mga Diyos. Of course, Yahweh is the God of Israel. But the gods delegate them to the monarchs, to the kings. Sila yung representative ng Diyos sa lupa to restore, to establish MISHPAT, justice. Then, on to the people. So, kung hindi ginagawa nung hari ang responsibilidad niya na yan, papasok ang mga propeta. Dahil the prophets are the spokesperson of God. They are speaking in the name of God. So they critique. They have the right and role and responsibilidad na tawag pansin na tutuligsahin o ikikritik o pagsasabihan ng mabibigat na salita, judgment, indictment, yung mga hari or mga rulers, kung hari, the princess, the ruler, yung mga nobilities, those who have power, who hold power, in order to preserve, to restore justice. So, yun yung dynamics ng social justice in the ancient world. So, hindi sila sa nakikialam yung mga propeta, talagang tungkulin nila yon. Kasi ngayong hustisya sosyal ay galing sa Diyos. No? At ibinigay doon sa hari na siyang may responsibility. Pero pag hindi ginagawa, pinapabayaan nung hari, o binabastos niya, o ini-ignore niya, o inaabuso niya ang hustisya na sosyal na yan, pasok ang mga propeta. And such kind of ministry ni Isaiah was mostly done during the reign of King Uzziah and before his death. It was the mostly, therefore, you will find yung attack, yung mabibigat na words of judgment and indictments ni Prophet Hosea sa chapter Isaiah, Prophet Isaiah in chapters 1 to 5. So yung first 5 chapters ng Isaiah, karamihan dyan would be really, kumbaga, nandyan si Isaiah na social aktivista. So, pag nababasa ito ng mga, mga nandyan sa poder, pwede silang sasabihin, i-red tag nila itong si Isaiah. Pwede nila siyang i-red tag. Mare-red tag siya dahil mabibigat nga ang banat niya dito. Now, let's now give some sample text. Let's go through the text of chapters 1 to 5. Piliin natin yung mga teksto na kung saan palaban ang propeta to preserve or to restore or to fight for the basic human rights or social justice. Umpisa pa lang, opening pa lang ng kanyang oracles, ng kanyang libro, banat na siya agad. Pagkatapos ng one verse na introduction kung anong panahon niya, verse 2, umpisa na siya. Hear, O heavens, and listen, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. I reared children and brought them up, but they have rebelled against me. Sabi niya, very similar to the style of Hosea, di ba? Yung father and child relationship. No? I reared them, pero naging, anong tawag natin dyan? Alibugha. Naging alibugha. Mga anak sila. Then, verse 3 follows, gumamit na siya ng comparison ng metaphor. The ox knows its owner, and the donkey its master's crib. But Israel does not know. My people do not understand. Kumbaga, mabuti pa yung donkey, mabuti pa yun, no? Nare-recognize niya yung crib ng kanyang amo, ng kanyang sabsaban, ng kanyang amo, no? Master's crib, no? Pero yung Israel o yung Huda o yung Jerusalem na aking mga anak, they do not know. Hindi nila ako nare-recognize. Mabuti pa yung hayop na recognize niya yung kanyang amo, yung kanyang higaan, yung kanyang crib ng amo niya. Nung binasa ito ni St. Francis of Assisi, no, at gumagawa siya ng Belen, maalala niyo yung Belen during Christmas, no? So naglagay na siya ng mga hayop doon sa donkey and ox doon sa kanyang Belen, dahil nga because of this text, no? Dahil may sabsaban, no? Crib. Mabuti pa yung mga hayop doon, no? Nakaluhod. Yung iba pang hayop doon, nakaluhod sila before the baby Jesus, no? Na nasa crib, nasa sabsaban. At parang nagpupuri sila, nire-recognize nila na yung bagong panganak na sanggol ay anak ng Diyos, ang Mesiyas. Mabuti pa sila. Pero yung mga tao, hindi nila nakilala na naipanganak na ang Mesiyas. No? So, can you imagine yung pagkagamit ng verse na ito sa Belen. No? Okay, then move to verse 10. Verse 10, hear the word of the Lord. Banat na siya. Tinawag niya na rulers of Sodom yung mga namumuno. Kung yung mga namumuno ngayon, mahilig silang magmura sa magbigay ng mga pangalan, bansag na masasama sa kanilang mga kalaban, ito si Uzziah, sinabihan niya talaga kayong mga leader ng Sodom. You remember Sodom and Gomorrah. So he called them rulers of Sodom, meaning you are like them. No? Listen to the teaching of our God, you people of Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 11, what to me is the multitude of your sacrifices, says the Lord. Okay. I have had enough of burnt offerings, of rams, and the fat of fed beasts. I do not delight in the blood of bulls, or of lambs, or of goats. Yun ang sabi niya. No? What to me? No? Anong mga yan? No? Yung mga inyong inaalay. No? Walang halaga sa akin yan. Now, you remember, yung halos ganun din yung sinabi ni Hosea, di ba? I desire mercy, not sacrifice. And then last time we were reminding ourselves na baka naman nasusobrahan na natin yung rituals at nakakalimutan natin yung mercy side na mas dapat nangunguna. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Dito naman, punong-puno na ako sa inyong mga offering, sa inyong mga alay, sa inyong kung ano-anong mga sinusunog ninyo, no? Para pag-aalay, bringing offerings is futile, sabi niya. Futile, no? Useless, walang silbi. Incense, hindi na mabango sa akin, is an abomination to me. May mga nag-complain pa minsan na, Father, yung insenso natin hindi mabango. Dapat para sa Panginoon, mabango. Ang mahal-mahal naman ng mabango insenso. Pero I'm just exaggerating it. Pero He's the Lord, no? Not being pleased with any incensing at all. In fact, it's the opposite. Abomination na yung pag-iinsenso. No? New moon and Sabbath and calling of, meaning mga festivals ito. There's a festival for new moon, yung mga piyesta ninyo, yung mga, alam mo, daming piyesta ng Israel din, katulad natin. Sabbath, I cannot endure solemn assemblies with iniquity. Sabi niya. Yung pala, no? Ginagawa nila yon, pero punong-puno naman sila ng kasamaan, ng iniquity. No? So, kay Hosea, sabi niya, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Na, dito, it's more elaborate. No? Isa niya yung ayaw na ng Panginoon. Sobra na, sabi niya. Sawang-sawa na ako dyan. No? Ginagawa niyo yung kaso punong-puno naman kayo ng iniquity. Isaiah 1:15, second part of verse 15. I will hide my eyes from you, even though you make many prayers. Hala, sige, damihan niyo pa ang inyong mga dasal, pero I will hide from you. I will not listen. Dahil, kanina kung iniquity sila, ito naman ngayon, counterpart ng iniquity, full of blood, meaning violence. Nagpapatayan naman kayo, no? Full of, nagsisiraan naman kayo, no? Full of blood. Then verse 16, this was the reading last Sunday, yesterday, or the other day, or yesterday, kasi naalala ko nag-preach ako on this on the first reading. Yung chapter 1, verse 10 onwards ata yun yung reading. And then, ito yung heart of that reading. Wash yourselves, make yourselves clean, remove the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. And ito na, verse 17. Learn to do good, seek justice. Yun na, MISHPAT. Seek justice. Sulat na natin, MISHPAT. And ano ang MISHPAT? Rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. Bakit naman widow, orphan? Yun yung kategorya ng mga mahihirap na walang karapatan na inaalipin at winawaglan ng halaga noong unang panahon. Orphans and widows. And those who are oppressed is a generic, but in particular, the orphans. And the orphans, kasi nga, as I was saying some time ago, yung orphan, sinong mag-aalaga sa kanya? Hindi naman tunay na anak yung mag-aalaga sa kanya. So he will not be treated just like a real child. No? Maalala niyo si Saint Joseph. Muntik pa niyang i-divorce si Mary dahil natagpuan niya na hindi niya pala anak, yung nasa sinapupunan ng Blessed Mother. So, he was a righteous man, meaning a man of justice, but also of mercy. So, buti nag-intervene yung anghel. Pero that's a case na the orphan can be or illegitimate child can be sidelined katulad nung ni Ishmael. So no one would defend, walang magdi-defend sa kanila. They will not be treated as like human beings or just like ordinary children. So defend the orphan. The widow naman, because the widows do not inherit. Kung yung widow wala ng anak, o may anak siya pero babae, hindi makakapag-inherit ang mga babae. So, that's why sometimes ang nangyayari sa kultura nila, ang kukuha sa kanya bilang asawa ay yung kapatid noong asawa niya, his brother-in-law. Yun yung tinatawag na levirate marriage. You marry your brother-in-law who will take care of you. So, pero you will not be treated just katulad dati, dahil hindi ka naman niya unang asawa, hindi kanyang mahal. So, that's therefore, the category of being oppressed, of being trampled upon, and their rights were taken for granted. How the faithful city has become a harlot. You remember, Isaiah, gumamit din siya ng mga war, yung metaphor ng marriage covenant with Yahweh. No? So, Isaiah has also a similar metaphor of unfaithful wife. She that was full of justice, punong-puno pa naman kayo ng justice noon, ng MISHPAT, righteousness noon, punong-puno kayo, but now, murderers na kayo. Nung una, okay naman kayo. But now you have become murderers. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 21. Then, move tayo sa verse 23. Banat ulit siya sa mga rulers. Your princes are rebels, kampon ng mga magnanakaw, comrades of thieves, companions of thieves. Everyone loves a bribe and runs after gifts. O hindi nalalayo yung mga nandyan sa mga tabi-tabi natin. Everyone loves a bribe. No? Padulas, commission, or whatever. And runs after gifts. They do not defend the orphan, and the widow's cause does not come before them. So you see the indictment, strong words. Napakatapang itong propeta na ito, no? Before the rulers, no? Beginning from the king. Sabi ko nga kanina, kasi yun ang primary responsibilidad ng mga nasa kapangyarihan, to ensure justice for the oppressed, the widows and the orphan. Now, to cap it all, meron pang awit ang propeta. Siguro hindi sapat yung kanyang oracles na in the form of his speech. No? So, ang ginawa niya, nag-compose siya ng protest song. Maybe this is the first protest song in history. No? Di ba, marami tayong protest song. Bayan ko, yan, isang protest song yon, no? At iba-ibang yung famous protest song doon sa Les Miserables, no? Meron din yon, no? Yung I forgot that Les Miserables, so, but it was just a few months ago, no? So then you will find it the Isaiah as the singer cum social critic in Isaiah chapter 5, 1-7. Binabasa ito twice, I think, sa liturgy natin. Partner niya yung vineyard, the parable of the vineyard doon sa Mark chapter 12. No? The vineyard's love song. Kung may title man ito, we can entitle it the vineyard's love song. Ano ba itong song na ito? No? Well, may vineyard, no? At yung vineyard, may-ari ng vineyard, no? At meron yung so-called umaawit, the singer of the song, the singer of the tale, the singer of the hymn, no? And towards the end, ma-identify mga yon, no? Yung may-ari ng vineyard, who is the friend, sabihin na lang natin plantito, kasi inalagaan niya ng husto at super ang kanyang pangangalaga doon sa vineyard para lang lumago at mamunga ng maayos. No? And what happened is the opposite. No? Sa halip na mamunga ng maayos, it's the opposite. Makikita natin mamaya yung pan na ginawa ni Uzziah, no? Namunga ng maasim, in short. No? So, yung naman, later on, ma-identify na yung vineyard na yan ay mga inhabitants o mga rulers ng Jerusalem. And the friend, the plantito, who owns the vineyard is the Lord, and the singer is Prophet Isaiah. This is a picture of sabi doon kasi sa song, he tended very well the vineyard, nagtayo pa siya ng mga walls to protect the vineyard, some wild animals and robbers, etc. Naglagay pa siya ng watchtower para babantayan day and night, para talagang ibinuhos ang lahat ng kanyang energy, lahat ng kanyang talent sa pagtatanim, para lang itong vineyard na ito would produce much fruit, no? And good fruit. Pero ang nangyari, baliktad. Kaya nga, sa bandang huli, sabi doon sa song, which is a pun, I expected justice, yun ang bunga niya na ini-expect ni plantito, ni Panginoong Yahweh, no? Pero ang lumabas ay bloodshed, karahasan. I expected righteousness. Ang lumabas ay oppression. The cry of the oppressed. So, in Hebrew, it's more, the pun or the play on words ay klarong-klaro. Beyakav le mishpat, I expected justice. Vehine mishpak, behold bloodshed. TSEDAKAH, meaning I expected righteousness. Vehine tsaakah, the cry of the oppressed. You see the rhythm and the rhyme. And the use of the pun, meaning the play on words of at, mishpat, mishpak, tsaakah, TSEDAKAH. They are really addressed to the rulers of Judah. And here we have some more crimes that they have committed na ina-accuse sila ni Prophet Isaiah. The Lord enters into judgment with the elders and the princes of His people. So, parang nasa court sila eh. Remember doon, yung sinabi ko na prophetic rib na style ng mga propeta na parang dadalhin nila yung may kasalanan sa korte at ina-accuse nila doon para sila ay prosecutor before God. No? And calling on witnesses sometimes. So, it's an imaginary court kung saan ang may inakusahan at may nag-aakusa. Ang nag-aakusa ay ang propeta, ang inaakusahan ay ang Huda o ang Jerusalem, at ang korte at ang huwes ay ang Panginoon who will give judgment. So here, in the name of the judge, the prophet enters into judgment with the elders and princes of his people. May judgment na yung Panginoon. It is you who have devoured the vineyard. So may sentence na. The spoil of the poor is your houses. So sinamsam nyo ang pag-aari ng mga mahihirap. Chapter 3, verse 15. What do you mean by crushing my people? So, tinawag niyang yung mga mahihirap na my people. Imagine, no? This is the Lord calling those who are oppressed as His people. My people. Yung isa naman, ang tawag niya sa mga sundalo ay my soldiers. This is parang patronizing word. No? But here, it is the identification of Yahweh with the oppressed. Parang yung sinabi ni Jesus, remember in Matthew 20, last judgment, final judgment, Matthew 25, no? Wherein they were not able to recognize the Lord because he had identified himself with those who are naked, those who are in prison, those who are without clothing, those who are hungry, we are thirsty, and so, Lord, when did we see you hungry, thirsty? Whatever you did to the least of my brothers, you did it unto me. So, the Lord identifying himself sa mga ganong klaseng, to the little people, to mga taong, kumbaga sa expression natin ngayon, nasa laylayan ng lipunan, those who are oppressed. So, what do you mean by crushing my people? By grinding the face of the poor. See the parallel there, no? My people and the poor. Says, the Lord of armies, the Lord of hosts means the Lord of Sabaoth. Hakbong sandatahan ng Panginoon. Sabaoth, you remember the holy, holy, holy a while ago. Chapter 3, verse 16, the Lord said, hindi niya rin inispare yung mga kababaihan, no, na siguro nagpakasasa doon sa mga asawa nila na nasa poder na nag-aabuso ng kanilang kapangyarihan. So tinawag na sila na daughters of Zion, who are haughty, mayabang, and walk with outstretched necks. Parang, ano ba yun, yung ibon, mahaba ang neck, no? Mayabang, no? And glancing wantonly with their eyes. O, makaka-identify tayo ng mga action na ganyan. Mincing along as they go, tinkling with their feet. O, marami silang mga borloloy sa paa. Chapter 3, verse 17, sorry. The Lord will afflict them. Ito na yung judgment. Ito na yung sentensya na ibibigay ng Diyos na huwes sa kanila. They will be afflicted its calves. Sobra naman si Isaiah. The heads of the daughters of Zion, at kakalbuhin sila, and the Lord will lay bare their heads. These are metaphorical metaphors being used here, heavy metaphors, which means punishment. In that day, the Lord will take away the finery of the anklets. Tatanggalin niya yung mga kanilang mga processions, beautification, sabi kanila, the headbands and the crescents. And instead of perfume, verse 24 na tayo, instead of perfume, there will be scents, magiging mabaho sila. And instead of sash na mamahalin, tali na lang, siguro pang big T, a rope. And instead of well-set hair, baldness. And instead of rich robe, sackcloth. Instead of beauty, shame. Sobra naman si Isaiah, galit na talaga siya. Verse 14, chapter 5. Therefore, Sheol is the abode of the dead. Good or bad, everyone goes to Sheol. At yung Sheol, yung description sa Biblia ay para siyang may malaking bunganga na naglalamon ng tao. It can swallow the dead and be deposited forever doon sa Sheol, good or bad. So, large its appetite. No? Yung Sheol ay talagang gutom at uhaw. And it's open its mouth beyond measure para lamunin yung mga nobility of Jerusalem, and her multitude go down the throng and all who exalts in her. So, death, and not just simple death, but really violent death, Sheol swallowing them alive. Verse 30, they will roar over it on that day like the roaring of the sea, and if one look to the land, the kingdom, Jerusalem, only darkness and distress, and the light grows dark with clouds. Talagang this Isaiah opening pa lang is bumanat na siya. Why? absence of social justice. So para bang a sort of little reflection, a nation that has no sense of social justice may perish. Yun yung point dito, which the prophecy of this prophet will come true, as we know. Not now, but it will take some time before Jerusalem will be finally destroyed in the Babylonian by the Babylonians. But that is after 200 years pa. Anyway, we will explain that next meeting. So till next week, may the Lord bless you tonight, and may the Blessed Mother intercede for all our needs, especially when we may be kept away from all harm and evil from COVID-19. This is Father Randy Flores, Sacred Heart Parish Shrine, Quezon City, and the Biblical Apostolate of the Diocese of Cubao. May the Lord bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Good night, and God bless.